Good evening, everybody. Michael Devine here, Gray Matters Radio. A show like any good therapy session operates somewhere in the world of the in-between, the gray. I am your host, Michael Devine, America's Counselor. Probably asking, why America's Counselor? How'd I get roped into a counseling session? Well, decided to take on America as my own little client without your permission. I couldn't stand by anymore watching everyone fighting the way they are. The world going down the tubes, and one family, one client at a time. So I took it upon myself to kind of try to solve all these different problems. Naturally, I couldn't do it by myself. The problem is just too big. I needed some help. So I invited Bill Reed, the armchair quarterback, armchair therapist himself. What's going on, my man?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good. I felt like we just did.
Well, a lot of the shows feel like that, You are America's Counselor. America's Counselor. That's the angle you need to be going for. Not America.
That's a cool thing. We're doing more shows now. I mean, that's the whole idea of doing our own network. We can do multiple shows, get to do things in different kind of ways. So it's, it's kind of nice, isn't it?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you, my man.
It's interesting. Here in a second, I'll introduce our guest, but, before the show, we always kind of talk with everyone just to kind of get an idea of what we're going to be talking about. Get everyone kind of warmed up. I guess kind of like the fluffers, pretty much, before we kind of go on. And,
is that what we are? Yeah.
It kind of is that pre-production, But yeah, so we were kind of, talking, and they're just like, well, Mike, you're kind of asking me about, hey, why are you doing a show? Like what the whole point of the show is. And, one of the things I was talking about is that I think there's so many problems out there in the world. And I think if you turn on the news, we're only really talking about it in one way. Just the other day I was reading where 3 out of 5 millennials are talking about how stressed out they are, how anxious they are, depressed. We see suicide rates going up despite all the money we're throwing at it. We're seeing the addiction rates go up. And then if you look at health, just general health, I mean, people are more unhealthy than they've ever been before. Families are disconnected. We're not going outside. We have all these really big problems. And so I think we're only talking about it, I think, in really one way. And so that's where I love the idea of our show, because we can actually talk about these things in a radically different way and bring a new light into it. And so it's no secret to, a lot of my friends, I don't know if the listeners, but I'm a huge skier. I love outdoors. I mean, a lot of the vacations that I take are all about being outdoors. I think my wife is not a skier, but I always try to finagle some type of Colorado or Tahoe trip.
So you're able to drag her out there, and she's not even much of a skier, you're saying?
I did it once. I took her out to Tahoe for her first time. Mind you, she grew up in Texas, and she pretty much ended with her saying, "Fuck this mountain," and walking off. But she tried, to her credit. She lets me, go off and ski on the weekends. And so it's something very near and dear to me. And I think, when I think people think about skiers and snowboarders, I think, I think a lot of times people just had the idea of just being some bros, potheads, guys that just love just going off, not doing anything to skiing. And it's just man, this is a way of life.
And not that there's anything wrong with that, because, there obviously is going to be the share of people that do that, but there's a lot more to it as well. I mean, it's
there really isn't. That would
be like saying that all people that go snowboarding and skiing and things like that are potheads. That would be like saying anyone that plays softball just drinks a bunch of beer, you know what I mean, and goes out there and plays ball. And yeah, there are some of that, but that's not what it's all about.
Well, and that's the thing that I hate, is that I think people really, don't have the right idea of it. Yeah. I mean, maybe during the Olympics they look at it differently, but I know for me, it means a lot. I know, I took a big break from skiing when I moved down to Texas for grad school. I went from skiing every weekend to taking a pretty damn big break. And I remember finally getting back involved, with it. I remember went out to Tahoe, and, I remember just that feeling of being almost uncomfortable with it again. And then, really pushing myself. And I know my brother-in-law, Dom, he will say that he has a habit of going, the hill's not so bad. And then next thing you know, you're at the top of a giant mountain. So, but just that feeling
doesn't look so bad.
Oh yeah, I
Famous
did.
last words. Hey, watch this.
And
Hold my
just
beer.
it's so true. It's like Tom had this habit of doing stuff like that, but it pushed me. And I remember, like, I mean, I've accomplished a lot. I mean, married, being a dad, being a published author, running a good business. And like, I remember that feeling of pushing myself for those couple days, that first time back, and just how amazing I felt. I mean, literally, it was like a drug. I mean, it was like I was on top of the world, and I forgot what it felt like to be uncomfortable, to be nervous, push myself, and then do something wrong, and then go, okay, why did I do that wrong? And then, okay, I'm going to go down this next run. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to do it right. And then just keep nailing it. And just like that bug, it totally was just addicted again. And we look at, that's something that I think kids nowadays, millennials, adolescents, we're not seeing a lot of that. And I think it's something that, I don't know, I think it really is something that there's so much to learn from it. And I think that's something that's missing from kids growing up nowadays, that pushing yourself.
I think there's a lot of things missing from kids growing up nowadays. No offense to them. It's not all their fault, but I agree. I think there's a lot, though.
Oh, and I think a lot of it is just kids. They're so afraid to make a mistake. They're afraid to push themselves. They want to be comfortable. And it's just, I think we need to get back to, pushing kids a little bit, and challenging them. And I think there's so much to that. And that's where I get so excited when I get to be around other people that care as much about it as I do. If anything, have a bigger kind of passion about than I do, and then have made a living out of it. And it's awesome. So that's why I'm like super excited about, tonight's guest. So we got on the line. We got Teddy Goggin, the coach of the Summit snowboard and ski team, and we got Kevin Saylor. Gentlemen, welcome.
How's it going?
Dude, I'm doing good. Thanks so much for being on the show. We got a couple hour time difference in between us, but we got the Ohio connection with all of us. So once a Buckeye, always a Buckeye, right?
Once a Buckeye, always a Buckeye.
Oh, wait.
Off Bethel Road.
I was just waiting for that one.
So, gentlemen, once again, thanks so much for coming on. So first things first, I want you guys, to talk a little bit about yourselves, what you do. Big reason why I wanted you guys on the show is that you guys are doing an awesome event out in the town of Silverthorne. It's the Rail Jam, presented by Arapahoe Basin out in town of Silverthorne. Skiing, snowboarding, badass community event, pros, amateurs, family event. It's awesome what you guys are doing. I was there last year, tried to help out. That had bummed me. I think I probably gotten away more than anything, but guys, so tell me a little bit about just yourselves.
So I left, I grew up at Mad River Mountain in Ohio. That was where I learned to snowboard. Before that, I was 1.5 years old, learning to ski at Cherry Peak in South Dakota. So snow has been a part of my life pretty much the whole time. And when I turned 25, I said, it's time for me to get to Colorado and enjoy the powder. So yeah, moved out here and been working and riding for companies ever since.
Teddy, what about you, man? How'd you get out there?
Mike, I had roommates at Ohio State, and they were all doing cool things. One was becoming a vet. One was becoming an engineer. One was becoming a dad. And I looked at myself and was like, man, I should do something cool, because why not? And so I kind of jumped into the ski industry and became a qualified coach. Took a course, as you would. And from there, I took a job in Colorado. So I think I've been out here almost 13 years, 2006, 2007. The year I showed up. When I was away from Ohio, education was really the only thing I could hope for to catch me up in the ski industry. So I just stayed on studying and was able to work with some amazing people along the way. So I've been able to see skiing from, an Ohio point of view, and then as a student, and then at that professional level. So it's been a great ride. It was a great choice.
Yeah. How long have you guys, collectively been skiing? Like Kev, you said it sounds like since you were a kid, you were skiing. Teddy,
I'm
same thing with you?
32 years.
Wow.
I think I learned when I was 8 years old. Because from Ohio, you don't get the opportunity to ski all the time. So I think I skied maybe, 5-10 times a year from probably age 8 to 14. And forgot about skiing. And then one day a good mutual friend of ours was coming over to the house and we headed up to the mountain afterward in Mad River. So I'm going snowboarding. And so followed a friend up probably about age 20 to the Mad River and saw a terrain park and was like, wow, what is this? Kind of fell in love.
Now, tell me a little bit about the Rail Jam, because I saw how much work you guys put into that last year. Literally, you guys were tearing it up, and I know you guys have multiple jobs that you guys do. Tell me a little bit about the Rail Jam, why you guys decided to do it, and moreover, like, what are you guys hoping to accomplish by having this Rail Jam event?
Oh, last year it was an idea, and the town we had a relationship with, and they said, "Can it be done?" And we said, "We hope so." Hoping for snow never really came, so we had to harvest snow, which added to a ton of the work. The snow we harvested was obviously not nice, easy, moldable snow as much as blocks of ice. So it was a lot of hand manicuring. This year, the town, and we have a big machine to come on board, help push snow around, as well as a few more hands and a few more power tools. We've had a great snow year, so I think we're looking at a slightly less work for hopefully twice as much fun.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, what does it mean to you guys? What do you think it means to the community? Because if you're going to do that type of work, obviously it means a lot to you, means a lot to the community. Why put on an event like that?
This has been one of my goals pretty much ever since my dad inspired it with me when I was young, was, if you can get people together that love the same sport, that want to learn that sport, you can show everyone what it takes to, get involved, whether it be teaching somebody how to step into that binding for the first time to, teaching them the first flip or showing them the first flip. It just inspires others to want to do what you do and what you love.
And I think, like, that in and of itself, I love hearing that because I think the thing about how many people can really say, I have a passion. And a passion to me is not something where you have to think about it. It's something where, with every ounce of your soul, like, I am passionate about it. It is something that I just cannot do without. And that's where I get from you guys. Like, we are passionate about this. We're passionate about the sport. We're passionate about sharing it with other people. We're passionate about helping other people kind of learn it. And that's, like, once again, like, one of my favorite parts about this. When one of my favorite things from last year's Rail Jam is when you saw these really badass kids. Kids where it's like, I think, me naturally being a skier, I think I pay a little more attention to the freestyle skiers. But even like these kid snowboarders where they would do like a ridiculous kind of just sick, and it's amazing. And then you'll see like the parents, and then you'll see all the other riders all sitting there just like instantaneous, like going over there and giving that accolade. And you see these little kids just like literally their chest puffs up, they're like beaming. But just like that though, it's not just about, oh, you're only getting that accolade when they land this badass trick. Even when they mess up and they're angry, you'll see someone go over there and start talking to them, try to get them out of their head, try to get them to kind of calm down, kind of build them back up again. And I don't see that on a daily basis anywhere else than on the hill. Would you guys say that is that almost what you're trying to create, or is that a big reason why you guys are doing what it is that you're doing?
Well, I think you touched on it earlier when you said you want to be a little bit uncomfortable. And when you get hooked by a sport like skiing, there's just always another step. There's always something more that, can develop, adding a rotation, adding a movement, a motion, a grab. There's so many ways to individualize it. And the feeling that you get when you succeed while feeling a little bit uncomfortable is very addicting. And I think it's a very healthy addiction. It's something that the moments are short, but the lasting effect, as you said, like the chest puffed up, it's one of the most fun parts of the job.
Now, Kev, like, when you look at these young, like, snowboarders, I mean, these really good young kids, and then you see it's almost like these multiple generations of snowboarders at the event. Do you guys design it almost that way to have, like, that mentorship almost, like, just to have, like, the pros? And this year I think you're adding even, like, an amateur category. Is that kind of all by design, or is that just kind of the nature of the sport?
That's one thing this year. We're going to make it a little bit more dialed back on one side for the amateurs, but the pros will still be able to, throw the tricks that they don't think they're going to be doing that day. It's like, oh, we're going to throw a box in here. We're going to make you test your limits. And with the amateurs, it's, they can do the tricks they know in the box and then step up to the others and test their limits and see what they can do.
And that's the thing, like, can we think of any other sport where you get to test your limits instantaneously like that? And I mean, I'm a big racing fan, but let's be honest. I mean, how many people can afford to be a racer, right? I mean, now given, I mean,
well, you can't just jump in there either and just get in a race car either,
But it's like there's not a lot of sports where instantaneously you get that feedback to push yourself and then to see how it kind of works. I mean, honestly, can you guys think of any other sport or anything else that brings that besides skiing and snowboarding?
I think action sports share that. No matter what it is, a solo sport, even a sport like golf probably does. But sports where you have to internalize and connect your body and your mind and use the surroundings, they lend themselves to kind of what you're talking about. So I think there are a lot of people that get that feeling. It's just that those people are very spread out.
Well, I think it's the fear factor, because golf, I mean, I play golf. I suck at it. But, like, yeah, you have to kind of maybe make an adjustment, hit a badass drive, but you don't have to worry about falling down, 1,000-foot, hill or hitting a rock or a tree or, landing a jump wrong.
So no, I think you're right. I think action sports are pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, to me, like, what do you kind of see with family involvement? Because, that's something, I work a lot with adolescents as a family counselor, and, kids don't want to do anything with their parents anymore. I mean, it seems like everywhere along the way, I mean, kids are just like, oh God, get away. I don't want to do this, or I want to do this with my friends. To me though, like, what do you guys kind of see the involvement from the parents? And what is that like to see, that family involvement with your guys' athletes?
Oh, that's a good question. I think families really keep our sport alive. Kind of hope maybe for that same reason you're talking about, people not spending time together. I think you said your wife, did not get along with the mountain, but the mountain has something to offer, even if it's, a disagreement sometimes. But families that get out there and ski together, they all kind of feel that same freedom from skiing or snowboarding. And I think that freedom definitely transcends a child-parent barrier.
And I even imagine, like, I know Kev, I know with you, with coming out here, you kind of, starting from scratch, it's almost like it seems there's like a mountain family, because even if the kids' parents aren't there, it seems like there's still a community built in around that mentorship, people being there kind of for each other to pick each other up. I mean, would you say that's a very cool kind of personal part to you, Kev?
I believe that's one of the main reasons I moved to Colorado, is because I knew the friends that were going to push me were the ones that were out here. And, it took me a minute to find myself again. But once my friends showed me the way, it was nothing can stop me now. And that's part of this rail jam. I want to, push myself to throw a good event so that I can bring the families out here to enjoy together and have the excitement that I have just putting on the event.
And I imagine that's kind of why the town of Silverthorne is so much behind this, because I think, I don't know. I think cities are really trying to create a sense of community, and Silverthorne is just a cool city. If anyone, all the listeners who have never been there, you got to go to Silverthorne. It is awesome. But I imagine that's a big part too. They're trying to create that community as well. I imagine. Like, what kind of feedback have you gotten from the city of why they're supporting it, and why they're upping their support now?
They love the event. It's Goldthorne, our community brought home a ton of gold medals from the last Olympics. It felt good, and I think the town of Silverthorne recognizes the special people that live here and how many of us truly are addicted or do give a lot of our time to this sport. And that's a fun culture for us to all share together.
I think one of the biggest things with last year too was, we had crappy weather. Like, it went from snow to rain to snow to rain, and we had a great turnout.
Sounds like Ohio.
It was amazing to see how many people came out to get soaked and watch their friends or sons, or just to be a spectator of the event and enjoy it.
Remember the little river that was like forming there towards the runoff towards the end? It was
5 jackets last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember at one point going off to the car just to put my my jacket just to let it dry off in there just for a second. I mean, but the thing is, there are so many people there. People are out there. I mean, literally throughout the entire event, which I think to me, it speaks volumes about the community that even in those miserable conditions, that people were out there supporting everybody, cheering from the first participant to the absolute very last one. Which, once again, to me, I mean, that's dedication and that's support, and you can't manufacture that. And I think that's such a cool, I don't know, to me, it's such a damn cool kind of thing. When you look at, this event, where do you guys see it going? So obviously this is year 2, and now we got 2 days, we got, expanding everything. Where do you guys want to see this event kind of go over the next couple of years? What do you guys foresee?
I know one of the biggest things I'm very stoked about this year is we added a retro big air to the event. And that's something I'm really going to push forward for the next year's event, is possibly adding another day. And, one other thing we're adding this year is a snow skate contest. So we're not just limiting it to the skiers and snowboarders, but the skateboarders who want to get out there and slide sideways on the snow as well.
Yeah, question for you guys. Do you see a lot of skateboarders who do snowboarding and vice versa? Because I kind of feel like that would maybe go hand in hand, or is that just kind of like a perceived myth, in your opinion?
I think surfing, skateboarding, snowboarding, it's the sports are people, if you're drawn to one, you're drawn to another.
Yeah, I kind of figured so too. I remember back when I was a kid, trying to and failing to skateboard in my youth, and quickly giving it up because, as Mike had kind of touched on earlier, not being successful at it right away and falling several times, and said, oh, that's about enough for me. But years later, I did get a chance to go skiing many times, which I loved and took to right away. So, and I think it's always just kind of, you figure, one board sport, like you said, attracts another one. So I can definitely see that correlation and that, that rush that they would get from one and the other.
Well, it almost seems like there's I remember, gosh, Bill, I remember we first started, over at Mad River, and there's a very clear delineation between the snowboarders and skiers. Now, a lot of times, as I got older, I was always like the one skier among all the snowboarders. So I don't know if I had a pass, I was like a switch hitter, I guess. I don't know. But it was always interesting how there was like that dichotomy, and then all of a sudden it became like where almost everyone's a snowboarder. It seems like the sport now, there's like this really cool, like meshing almost like a Venn diagram now, especially with the freestyle events between the snowboarders and skiers. Like, what do you guys kind of see, with that meshing of snowboarding and skiing, and how the two are getting along?
Oh, I mean, I think the movements are all real similar. Looking ahead and flat boards work just as well as looking ahead and flat skis. So I think you know, it's a community. It's a lot of fun. And so how you're having fun or what tool you're using to have fun doesn't matter. You're all in the same thing together.
Yeah, Kev, what about you, man? What are you kind of seeing? Because once again, like you know, coming from Mad River, it was a very interesting kind of. We have a very unique hill where it's like a great hill for like 15 seconds. You know, but then you know, going out
That's
to
what she
Colorado,
said.
it's like pretty much you go to Colorado, it seems like everybody is a freaking snowboarder. But then it was weird because I saw everyone then on a lot of people on freestyle skis. So it seems like is it that just the nature of the industry where it kind of just ebbs and flows back and forth?
I want to say that it's about 50-50 now on the sport for freestyle aspect. I mean, skiing's definitely making the comeback on the freestyle aspect of it. I know a lot of snowboarders that in the past few years have switched over to skis just because, you know, skinning up a hill and skating on cat tracks, it's a lot easier. That's definitely the biggest thing I've seen in skiing and snowboarding is, you know, once you get good at one thing, you want to try the other and see if you can conquer that as well.
Now, Kev, have you done much skiing? I don't think I've ever skied with you. I think I've always just seen you on a board.
So I started at 1.5, and I ski once a year for my dad. But I'm not made for two things splitting apart. I'm good with one thing that straps solid on.
Teddy, what about you? Because you're more the skier, but have you kind of gone back and forth, or have you kind of stuck to one?
Oh, I like skiing a lot. I can make some turns on a board. I don't love my toe side turn. I think skiing park and riding park probably be a lot better at the one than the other. But I know I could use, you know, some basic fundamentals to navigate the mountain.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's tough. You know, I know Dom has tried. He's like, "Hey man, why don't you know get up on a board?" And I'm just like, "Dude, I've been skiing since I was literally like 12. I think I'm just gonna stick with one." But I think one of the things that's I think awesome is probably why I think why Summit County is I think having so many amazing skiers and snowboarders is there's such a wide range of conditions. I've been out to Colorado where it was very kind of like that kind of hard pack kind of ice, you know. I've had it to where it was like almost like that Sierra cement. I've had it to where it was like amazing powder. I have groomed packed powder. I mean, it seems like there's every condition known to man. And coming out from Ohio out to Colorado, I mean, literally it was like, I remember last year we had a lot of that heavy, wet spring snow. And it was so difficult. One, I think, of course, I had to get some new skis for this year. I had to get some wider boys, you know, to come out there. But I was just like, literally, it made me feel like I couldn't ski anymore. Like, it literally almost made me doubt, like, oh my God, do I really not know how to ski anymore? It was so freaking challenging. It was a completely different style, but then it was just more than, it almost kicked in that competitiveness where I'm like, I got to figure this out. I will learn how to ski in these conditions. And that's the challenge, I think. I mean, Colorado is not forgiving. And it makes you earn the right, it seems like, to really kind of beyond that mountain, it seems like, especially Arapahoe Basin. I don't know about you guys, but of all the places I've been, I think A Basin is probably one of my favorite, probably my favorite resorts that are out there. What about you guys? I mean, how'd you guys get A Basin to even get to support this, and what is their involvement like, and why does a place like A Basin really want to get involved with events like this?
So A Basin means a lot to me. When they called my name for high school graduation in Ohio, I had made the choice that I was going to be on the list at A Basin. So that was, for me, A Basin's home. That is one of the most magical places you can be. There's a reason they call it the legend.
What ski did you get?
I got the Elon Ripsticks, the 106s.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, I was debating about doing some 116s, but I was like, all right, literally, I don't need anything that wide living in Ohio. But I got the one.
That's stupid fat. That's stupid fat. That's unnecessary. You're a doctor too, so you know ACLs. You want to hold on to those.
Yeah, well, I skied last year on a torn meniscus that was grinding. That technically I probably shouldn't have come out there, but I looked at I was having surgery in June anyway. So how else badly could I have screwed it up?
Oh, dude, it's just a meniscus, though. That's just pain.
Although what was weird because that snow, I've never skied anything like that before. It was grabbing my skis in such a way to where I've never felt. Like, because I always crank my boots down really good. I've never felt my feet rattle inside my boots before. That is the most unnerving thing, especially when you have a knee injury, to feel that torsion like that. That's when I made a decision going, dude, I'm not coming out there in the spring without some fatter skis.
Just giving you a hard time. We got a long season out here. It's like 200 or more days. So, yeah, you get all seasons with snow on the ground, and it's pretty fun. For those of us that live here, spring is the best because it's just, you got a whole season behind you and you're strong and everything's good. If it's a 1 week trip, that's a ton of work. So I'm sorry, Dr. Mike.
I'm gonna have a blast. We're gonna have a blast out there in a couple of weeks. So now, I want you guys to kind of talk a little bit about, I know Teddy, you're a coach of Team Summit. And I know we were talking before the show, you had some great little nuggets of just, what it's like to coach people, and the lessons you try to get them to learn. I want you each, to kind of come at it from a different kind of perspective. So Teddy, I'll have you start off of, like, as a coach, not just as somebody that loves the sport, but as a coach and you're teaching young people, what are things that you think need to be modeled to the general population? When you look at all the problems that we kind of have right now, especially like addiction, depression, just kids not being as resilient as they used to be able to do. What is like something that you wish people would pick up on and understand, and lessons to be learned that really apply to everybody?
All player strengths. I think that one's easy. Like, we all do some things well, and with hard work, you can do all things well. So the big question comes down to, like, what feels natural for you? And if there's something that you're enjoying, if you're in a competition, you want to showcase the things that put a smile on your face and you're proud of. And you can't compare yourself to things that make other people proud of themselves. That's unfair. But if you play your strength, generally your run, your movement, your trick, whatever it is, it's just a little bit better.
I love that. Kev, what about you, man? Just all your experiences, all the work that you do, all the people that you're kind of around. Like, what is something that you wish the general just kind of population, what other people knew about the sport, perseverance, you name it, that you think could really be helpful to people that are struggling, or even things that parents can teach kids?
One of the biggest things is can't's not a word. You can always try, and if you try, you tried. You didn't say you can't do it. You attempted, and from attempting it, you can make that step every time to be better and better and better, and then eventually get to the point where you say, I did it. I made it down the hill.
Well, I love that delineation. Try versus attempt, because try almost is kind of like, you're right. It's kind of like a cop out where I attempted it. No, I legitimately went through. Even if I failed, I legitimately went through and did it.
Fall is tough. I mean, you don't always make the shot, but you got a better chance by following through. And I think failing on a trick is way better than not having tried. Or I don't know. It's a cheesy Michael Jordan quote that maybe it's Michael Jordan. I'm pretty sure it is. Or it's Larry Bird maybe. But you miss all the shots you don't take. All that fun jazz.
That's Wayne Gretzky said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, and it's, I think that's something that is unique to, once again, I mean, I know I'm building up our sports, here, but I think that's something that's so incredibly, I think, intrinsic and unique to this sport because, I always look at, I think one of the biggest problems that I think kids, adolescents, young adults kind of run into is their environment and the people that are around them. I think you can play up to your competition. I think you can play down, to it. And I think there's such power in being surrounded by people where everybody is trying to elevate each other. No one's trying to put the other down. There might be some some healthy ball busting, which, you know, that goes with the territory. But it really is about, can we elevate each other? Can we push each other? You know, can we challenge each other? Can we help each other? And that's something I see, whether I saw that at the Rail Jam, I see it on the mountain all the time. Were there people in your guys' life that you felt as though played that role in your life, and let's say that person wasn't there to kind of push you in that community, where maybe your life would have gone a different direction? Kev, you first. Do you have anyone in your life that's kind of played that role?
I mean, I guess my aunt and my father were the ones that pushed me like crazy. And then when it came to snowboarding, you know, I grew up at the home mountain of Louis Vito, where at 8 years old, he's coming through and hitting the jumps that we were building on the side of the hill throwing backflips, and we were just doing straight airs. So it was like, okay, like, time to push it.
And the thing is, as a kid, like, I think a lot of times parents worry. I think, at least, I'm curious to get your guys' perspective of this one, but I think a lot of times what I see, either the parents push them way too far or too hard. It's almost like they're living vicariously through them, or it's almost like they don't push them remotely enough. It's almost like they allow them to kind of quit. Where is that delicate balance? You know, like, do you think there is a black and white little balance, or do you think it's different for everybody?
I think it is a gray area. Good title apparently. But I think letting your kid fail and fall and go through hard times is super important. You have to work hard for a lot of different things in life, and free skiing and free snowboarding is just another place where you're going to try and you're going to fall and it's not going to feel good. And learning to just let them have a bad moment is really good.
Well, I can even imagine, Kevin, like, you know, leaving everything that you knew in Ohio, making a living for yourself out in Colorado, starting over from scratch, and then, you know, even taking on an undertaking like with the Rail Jam and everything. I mean, do you look at all those things in life where, you know, whether it be snowboarding, that pushing of yourself and pushing it to the next level and being comfortable, do you look at that those experiences were basically essential to what got you to where you're at right now?
Definitely. I mean, if it wasn't for all the people involved with me back in Ohio, and, you know, at 15 years old, having them have me start building jumps and trying things back then, you know, my friends that moved out here that drew me out here, you know, they wouldn't have pushed me when I came out here. So that was one of the biggest things. They were like, you know, fall back in love with the sport, you know, realize why you got into it. And, you know, learning to ride powder out here was a whole new aspect for me. So, you know, that was fun. But, all right, let's go rip it through the trees, going 50 or 2 feet of snow, and, you know, just give me that love back that I was missing.
I think I'm a competitive person, and I want to play the game. So seeing other people do things that were inspiring, I've all been a part of why I love this sport. And without my buddies that, you know, building rails in the backyard, I wouldn't be here either. So you gotta love your friends.
And the thing is, like, and if it wasn't for those friends, if it wasn't for that support, I don't think, you know, it seems like a lot of us wouldn't be where it is that we are right now. I know, you know, my daughter, you know, she's 4.5, almost 5. And that's one of the big things that I'm really trying to instill in her, you know, is if she, you know, falls down or messes up on something, it's kind of like, all right, yeah, you screwed up, or all right, yeah, you messed up. It didn't go the way you wanted to, but okay, what did you learn from it? And all right, let's get back on there. Let's go do it again. And it's something that I know I've learned for myself. And I think all of us, you know, involved in this sport, and all of us who really care about the sport, it's almost like the same thing. You try to figure out what you did, you pull yourself back up, and you go back out there and rip it again. And I think there's so much to kind of learn from that. And that's where I think it's almost cool, is that, you know, hearing you guys talk about your stories, what things mean to you, and then now here you guys are putting on an event where you're creating this environment where it's like kind of like paying it forward. It's about the same ways that the sport and the people in the sport that have been there for you and helped you become who you guys are. You're now creating this really cool environment to do the same thing for the next generation and to showcase this to the community, to maybe people who were never ever going to be involved in it, or maybe people didn't know too much about it, can see it for themselves and catch that bug, or at least appreciate what it is that you guys are doing. Or even if you have the parents that maybe never going to go on the mountain themselves, but can see their kids go and shred out there. I mean, that to me I can't imagine how satisfying that has to be, especially seeing it grow. What's the thing that you both are most proud about this event? And if we're to say one thing to somebody to get them to come out, what would that be?
For me, it's going to be, come watch the youth, like the young ones that are showing up competing against the old guys. That's the future of the sport. And those are the kids that are, sitting on the couch that could be out there trying to learn those tricks that day. Last year we had two girls, or a girl and a guy in the snowboard division that were 12 years old that got second.
Yeah,
that's
one kid.
Thanks a lot.
I remember that one kid last year. I remember just being amazed, going, that kid is like half my age, more than half my age, and that will never be as good as them. It's almost not fair
even
how good
close.
some of these kids are.
No, I know. Well, that's what's weird too. With America's youth today, you see the kids. There's more exposure. There's more media. There's more YouTube and things like that for some of these sports, and you can see more of kids doing these kinds of amazing things. While at the same time, you hear how there's kids out there that are less active than ever. So it really, to see that dichotomy up close and personal, it is great and refreshing to see the kids, not always on their phones or not always sitting up in their room on the computer or whatever, the things they're doing these days, or at least they seem to have that rep publicly is doing, and seeing them out there, like you said, out there skiing and snowboarding and doing other sports and things like that, not being on the couch all the time. So, for me personally, not being a big time skier, I'm, just kind of a casual one, it's still refreshing to see that and seeing getting the kids out there and everything. It's really, really cool to see that. So,
well, and along those lines, a good point, Bill. The thing is, you guys spent, a decent amount of your lives in Ohio. Obviously I'm still out here, but you guys have been living out there in Colorado. Do you see a difference with, especially like high school kids, staying out of trouble or with drugs? And do you see there being a difference out in Ohio where it seems like kids that tend to be a little more sedimentary, whereas being out in Colorado, it seems like there's a lot more into the culture of Colorado, being outdoors, doing things. Do you see it having a big positive effect, from Ohio to here?
I think my point of view is going to be on the opposite end of that spectrum. Our school systems work with our kids. We're able to be on snow up to 5-6 days a week sometimes. That's a lot, and having the support from all angles, mom, dad, community, town, school system. Like, one reason to come to our event is because our event is hosted in one very rad community. We are really good at skiing and snowboarding, and so it is a really good time. Everyone shows up hungry and happy, and it is fun.
Okay, do you see that too? Just like that involvement, that big difference between, being Colorado than Ohio, just all that involvement, being outside all the time?
Definitely. I mean, end of the day, go fly fishing. End of the day, go hiking up the trails. We just have a lot more to offer out here. Not saying Ohio and the Midwest doesn't. It's just the kids don't search for it like they do out here. It's not just right in front of their faces.
Do you see kids using drugs, less, staying out of trouble, less, as a direct result of that? I mean, I know it's kind of a tough connection to make, but all right, we're not have to be scientists here. I mean, do you think there is a big difference with that? You think there is something to that of being outside and having all that and, staying busier maybe? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think the kids that are involved in snow sports, they definitely smell marijuana. We live in a legal state. So if anything, you just become a little bit more mature about it and recognize that, some things are more important than others. And if you want to be really good at a sport or really enjoy a sport, it doesn't make any sense to be involved in a bunch of drugs. So I think drugs are always going to have victims and people are always going to use them. But I think having something else that really drives you helps you make a better choice.
Yeah. one of the things you kind of see like in communities where there's not much to do, there's not much hope, there's not much anything, kids, that's where they seem to get into trouble most. But in the communities you see, there's constantly stuff going on. The schools are involved, the parents are involved, the friends are involved in all in it. It mysteriously, kids stay out of trouble, and they have a better head on their shoulders and more mature. It just seems like there's so much more kind of to that. And once again, it seems like Silverthorne is doing a really good job across the board of the community and the involvement around all this. And so it's just something that, and that's why I wanted you guys on the show. I mean, I think it's important for people to hear that and to see that. And I think the salient nature of you guys growing up where we grew up and moving out there, and so seeing two different like lifestyles and seeing these big differences, and I think it really speaks volumes about maybe some changes we need to make as a country and as community and as schools. Now, all of us can't live in Colorado. I mean, it'd be dope. I mean, but we can't all be there. But I think there's something to this of we need more involvement in the community, more involvement with parents. We all need to do stuff more together. We need to be more active. We need to get outside. We need to get off the video games. We need to do all that because mysteriously when we do that, we start having a community. And I think nowadays, that's the one thing we don't really have anymore. I think we're so divided. We're so polarized. We're so your neighbor is your enemy. There isn't really a sense of community anymore. The only sense of community I think we have is basically being, all Democrat, all Republican, all conservative, Trump, not Trump. It really seems like that's the only community we have, but the very essence of that community is to divide yourself or pit yourself against another, whereas with what's going on out west, there's this energy and feel, especially among this community, where it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. You guys all are passionate about a sport, but it's about community in every essence of the way, and it doesn't have to be based around having a common belief system or agreeing politically or whatever. And I think that's so awesome, and that's a story that when we're out there in a couple of weeks, it's a story I want to continue to tell. I want to get more people's opinions because I think people just need to hear all this. So I love what you guys are doing. I think it's awesome. And I really cannot say enough of how just, proud I am of all you guys of just putting on something like this, and just, it's awesome. And I can't wait to see what comes about it. I can't wait to see what year 2 is going to be like. Do you have any last parting words? Kev, you can go first. Ted, you can kind of, piggyback off of that, but any last kind of words or things that you really want people to understand about you guys or your organizations, what you guys are doing, and then where can they get information about the event, sponsorship, the partners, and all that?
So for event information, the town of Silverthorne has a Facebook page that has the flyer posted up on it, registration information. And then the best thing I have to say is, if you're a local to Colorado and you hear this podcast, come out and check it out. It's a great time. We have tons of prizes to give away. And, it's going to be a good time for you and your family to get out and enjoy something after the slopes.
Wow. Teddy, any parting last words?
Oh, Doc, I guess it was just nice to talk to you and meet you. I think your kind words really made me feel good tonight. I guess we don't necessarily always think about the community of what we do and how confidence really, in one kid can spread into another. And I think what we're talking about tonight is pretty cool. So thanks for having me.
Oh no, I I mean a lot of it. I know a bit of a homer when it comes down to these sports, but I don't know. The whole point of this show is to get people to look at things differently, and I think we need different solutions. And anything that brings people together, anything that unites us, people from all different walks of life. I think there's something so much for that, and then people that have taken it upon themselves to pass that on to other people and to showcase that and to make it a life mission, to create more of that. I mean, dude, that's to me, if we're looking at, how do you make America great again? I mean, that's it right there. And I think we need more of that. If only we had mountains everywhere, then to make it a lot easier. But I think we can all find ways of creating that in all of our different kind of communities, regardless of whatever it is. I think it's anything outdoor, anything physical, anything that's going to bring families and all of us kind of together. And I think it's awesome. And once again, I can't wait to actually hang out with you guys here in a couple weeks. We're going to do a show out there. We're going to talk with Kev, Teddy again, and we're going to interview some other folks out there just to kind of, once again, to dive a little bit deeper into this story. And I think there's a lot to kind of tell, and I'm just excited to be able to kind of, share that with everybody and do my part to kind of spread that message that you guys are throwing out there. Bill, any last words before we shove off here?
Yeah, I think it's time that you need a little Bill Reed out there in Colorado so I can report on this live and in person. What do you think about that, Mikey?
Oh, man, hey, plane tickets are ready to roll, man.
Fuel up the jets. I would love to see that in person. I'm jealous. I really am. I mean, that sounds like a really amazing thing, and I can't wait to see more on this,
Well, I think at this point, guys, I mean, it seems like this is a second year in a row, and, obviously I'm out there for the second year, so I think this has to be just a yearly thing at this point. I mean, I don't know if my wife is going to be thrilled with that, but I keep banking when my daughter's old enough, because we were going to try to get up her on skis this year, but the weather was just abysmal in Ohio this year. It seems like during the week it was nice, but on the weekend the snow would melt. So I'm going to try to get up her on skis next year. So I'm looking at kind of sharing that passion with her, and instead of it just being like, all right, Daddy's going to go out to Colorado, I want to see my little girl shred out in Colorado. And so it's, yeah, I just we got to make this a regular thing. Bill, we definitely got to get you out there the next year, man.
Hell yeah, I'm in.
But nah, gentlemen, I appreciate it. I know you guys have a lot of work. It's the end of a long day and everything, so I appreciate you guys, for coming on the show. And it's just, you guys, once again, I really appreciate it. So on that note, on behalf of myself, Bill Reed, the Armchair Quarterback, find him at thearmchairqb.org. And, of course, on the Reporters Network, you can find the Armchair QB Show. Of course, you're listening to Green Matters, so you know where to find us here. But Kevin Saylor, Teddy Goggin, hey, you guys, once again, thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. And as always, everybody, next time someone asks you, hey, man, you a Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, whatever, say, fuck that noise. My ass is great. All right, everyone, you take it easy. Peace.
Later.